Pizza delivery drivers of Reddit, what was the most ducked up place you've ever stopped at? I once delivered to a guy living under his porch, if that counts. I drove up to the house. It's pitch black. No lights on. I look at the ticket and it says use back door. I go up the steps and no lights on. Nothing. Then I hear a voice from below me say, "Hey, down here." I look under the porch and there's a small door leading into what looked like a makeshift apartment. I had to actually crouch to get to it. Gave the guy the pizza and bounced the duck out of there. I worked as a delivery driver for a very small Italian restaurant pizzeria during my first semester of college. This one time I delivered pizza to a swingers party. It wasn't like on the set of a porno or anything. He straight up told me when I was like having a party. Because he ordered 12 pizzas. He answered that this was his first swingers party and he just wanted to be sure everyone was having a good time. Someone ordered pizzas to a funeral. There were a ton of people there. All somber and dressed in black while I rolled up in my bright red greasy t-shirt. Lol. Definitely one of the most awkward experiences I've had. I didn't end up delivering the pizza, but the address was an abandoned house. It was around dusk and the house was so obviously uninhabited. I could see trees growing through the windows and the backside of the house was crumbling so badly I could see to the backyard from the street. The instructions were to come around back. I double checked the address after locking my doors, called the customer a couple of times. Called the store and told them what was up and why I wasn't delivering the pizza and headed out. I mean, seriously, who would have been dumb enough to go to the back of that house? IDK if this counts as ducked up, but it always makes me laugh when I think back to it. I delivered pizza to a house where an older guy walks out in a robe, sorta mumbling. I hand him the food, he hands me a 20. I tell him it's 24. He mumbles okay and waddles back into the house. Comes back and hands me another 20. I go to my pocket to get change and he slams the door on me. I also once delivered to an older woman who tells me to come in the side door. The food is about $34 and she hands me what I think is 40 and is really sweet. Asking me how I'm doing and all that. I get back into my car and realize it's actually $60 and 2 of the 20s were sorta stuck together. I go back into her house to let her know and she says, "Oh, I know. It's for gas and whatever else you might need." I always remember that lady because it was just such a random nice thing to do and really made my day. I was delivering chicken. KFC, not pizza. But my worst stop was pathetic. Really. I knock on the door. I hear a kid yell, "I got it." He opens the door and runs up the stairs yelling to his friends, "The chicken asshole's here. The chicken asshole's here." After which a crowd of about 8 preteens at the top of the stairs start throwing change down the stairs at me to pay for the delivery. I asked if they could hand me the money. They laugh and just throw the quarters, dimes, etc. Harder. So I picked up the bag of food. Winged it up the stairs at them. It hit the wall. And I split. Told the boss what happened, and if they call to complain I won't listen or apologize. I'll just quit if he brings it up. I found out later he did get a call and told them to get stuffed. Good boss. I delivered to a drug house a few times. It was always obvious that these guys were selling using. But it never bothered me as they usually tipped well. This one time I got there. Rang the bell and a bag of, I'm guessing coke or heroin. I have no idea. Slipped under the door. Not sure what to do, I decided to kick it back under the door and leave. Not super ducked up. But I think about it a lot. GPS led me to my city's hospital. After getting directions from a lot of employees I finally found the room. I'll admit now. I really should have paid more attention to the signs but was in a rush and didn't bother. Luckily there was a nurse already in this lady's room. I was just going to walk in and drop food off when the nurse starts shaking her hands and rushes to me. "No. No. No. You can't come in here. This is isolation." "Oh, I'm sorry." She ordered a delivery. She went back in the room and asked the lady if she ordered delivery and I heard the lady say yes. I overheard the nurse tell her, "You should have told me." Nurse comes back to me to grab food and told me if I had walked in the room I was not be let back out or something along those lines. Threw me for a loop. I will pay more attention now. I promise. So while I was an undergrad, I worked as a pizza delivery driver. I had a delivery to a dodgy part of town with a delicious pie. When I got within a couple miles of the residence, a local sheriff's deputy got in front of me. We made all the same turns. Then as we got closer, another got in front of him and one behind me. I start freaking out a bit as I'd been smoking some weed up. But carry on. Finally, we all get to the same residence, which is totally surrounded by police in riot gear. Guns drawn. All that shit. I get out with my pizza and discover the house I'm supposed to deliver to is the one with SWAT out in front. One of the officers waves me off and says, "He's not gonna need that today," and they proceed to breach the door. To which I return to the car with a free pizza and get the hell out of there. They were added to our do not deliver list, but I don't think we ever heard from them again. I have two. We had a regular that was saved in the computer as Mike from around the corner. Whenever I delivered he was super ducked up. On more than one occasion I had to let myself in because he was playing his drum set with his headphones on or completely ducked up on booze or drugus. One time he was passed out and drooling on the coffee table. Called the cops but he was okay. I saw him a year later at his day job and he didn't even know who I was. Was never sober when we delivered. The other one was a North Sea house in Huntington Beach. Big 4-bedroom and the place was always crawling with white supremacists. Always answered the door without shirts and displaying tattoos. Always a style. They wouldn't tip unless you were white. Used to deliver part-time in a not so nice part of town. Used to do a regular delivery to an adult bookstore. My 18-year-old mind was blown the first time I went in and saw all the sex toys and shit hanging on the walls. Another time I delivered to a room at a hot sheet motel. Dude opened the door and while he was counting out the money I saw a naked hooker sit up in the bed behind him. Funnest job I ever had. But man, the shit I saw and went through. The most ducked up delivery had to be when a woman answered with her huge beautiful Siamese cat. I love that breed. So I ask if I can pet him. She says yes. I bend down. The cat purrs. Rubs against me. All the usual signs of liking it. So I stand up to finish giving this lady her pizza. The cat lunges and bites me above my right eye. And wraps all four limbs around my head. Panic. Freeze. WTF do I do? WTF is going on? Why isn't this lady helping me? I grab this demon cat from hell by the front legs and just rip him the duck off of me. As I do, my contact lens pops off. All I can think is that it's eye skin coming off of my eyeball. I throw that ducker down and just freak out at the amount of blood that starts pouring out of my gash. The woman brings me into her house and puts a towel on. I tell her she has to take me to the emergency room or call 911 as I can't see to drive myself. After all, it was her cat who attacked me. She drives me to a minor air place. I get stitches. And a tetanus shot. She foots the bill. Never see her again. Boss wasn't happy that I missed the rest of the night. Or had another order in my car. Duck that cat. It was outside of town on a dirt road with tall trees. Every house was basically just plywood shacks. There was broken down cars and trash everywhere. The entire neighborhood just reeked of a B-rated horror film. I find the right house and walk up to the door, but it was just a blanket, so I had to yell pizza. They come to the door and grumbled. It was a haggard looking man wearing boxers and a dirty white tank. Something felt wrong as he handed me a bill that looked washed. I held the $100 with old Ben Franklin's face on it up to the light and could clearly see Abe Lincoln in the paper. They had ordered around $50 worth of pizza and wanted change. He tried convincing me that he went to the bank and they gave him that bill. I asked him why, then wrong face was on there, and he said that's how they do it. I said hell no and drove away as fast as I could. We stopped taking orders that don't have street roads. I made a delivery to a motel that was known for drug dealers users staying there. After I get there, the guy acts like his order is wrong and gets me to call my boss because he was hoping to just get the order for free. While on the phone with my boss, she told me not to worry about getting the money from him and to just get out of there ASAP because she was worried about me. I told her I would be fine and she didn't need to worry and I would see if I could get them to pay. So after talking to them for about 5 minutes, I actually get them to buy the food they ordered and give me a tip of 3 or 4 klonopins, which I was really happy with. Also, the guy wanted me to sell meth for him, which I politely declined. The whole time I was talking to them, my boss was blowing up my phone trying to get me to get away from them. It does mean a lot that she cared enough to do that. I delivered to a paper supply office back when I was 16. The manager obviously had issues when I couldn't use his coupons over a big order that wasn't applicable for. He locked me in the conference room the entire duration of the office party and eventually paid for the pizzas. But still a pretty annoying situation overall. I drove to the customer's house and saw that a guy was being handcuffed by the police in the front yard. I had no idea what to do, so I drove around a neighboring block a few times. When I came back, the police and handcuffed guy were gone. I didn't know if he was the customer or not, so I just walked up to the door and knocked. An old couple answered and took the pizza and paid and didn't say anything about the arrest that happened on their lawn. It was in a city with extremely low crime rate as well, so it was very strange to 17-year-old me. I worked at Domino's and we had to blacklist a guy because he was obsessed with me. He would come in and ask if I was there. If I wasn't working that day, he would just show up the next. If I was on a delivery, he'd wait around in the store for me. He would tell me that he loved me and ask me out on dates. He was very bad on heroin and made it obvious. The last time I delivered to his house, he ordered about $40 worth of food and drinks and kept trying to hand me $100 even though I told him numerous times I didn't have the change. He apparently stole his grandma's cell phone and wouldn't give it back, and him and his cousin were screaming at each other the whole time I'm waiting to get the smaller bills he kept telling me he had. He had nothing smaller than a $100 and he kept arguing with me because he changed his mind and just wanted one pizza and a drink, and I told him I couldn't do that. I delivered pizza in a slum during high school. There was a lot of ducked up shit, but the ones that really bothered me were delivering to junkies that had multiple young children just living in filth. There was one particular junkie who was always barely conscious and had like 4 kids living in squalor and eating probably nothing but pizza and soda every day. Also, these junkies always had some sheethead enabler, usually their parents, ordering the food for them. So it was 50/50 on whether or no they even answered the door or were otherwise aware of the delivery coming. Not pizza but kebab. Last summer, random summer job to help paying bills at home. I don't work there anymore. I delivered to a house. They were selling Drew Gus on the back window of, not Weeda, heavy Drew Gus. They tipped me €5 on a €15 order, gave me a 20, told me to just keep the change. Doubt he even knew how much the order was, so I decided to pretend I hadn't seen anything and just drove to the next place. Guy who paid me looked like he was quite high. I had a delivery to a normal address, but 2 blocks away from it a guy on a bike flagged me down. Asked if I was a delivery guy and said it was for him. He gave me his phone number and it was his order. We don't have those signs on the top of our car. And I was in a busy suburb, so I have no clue how he knew it was me. I was tipped in acid once. As in LSD. Nobody attacked me with acid. One lady always tried to get me to take out her trash or her mail. She was a regular too and never tipped. One old fat dude answered the door without a shirt and was super nonchalant about it. My first day, some guy asked if I wanted to rip his bong. There's another lady who is a regular and I refer to her as the mustache of doom. It's a fun job though. Not exactly a ducked up place. More like a ducked up tip. One guy tipped me with a beer. I was 17. All it did was freak me out. Another guy tipped me with a marijuana leaf. A leaf. You can't smoke that. It has to be processed. Thanks everyone. Till you don't smoke the leaf. You smoke the buds. The guy at the door slowly opens it armed with a rifle. I asked him if he had ordered pizza. And his reply was like, oh yeah. I just wasn't sure that it was you. Between pizza, social work, soldier, census, government field data investigator. I've seen some shit. Most of the pizza stuff is just people without pants. Or really intoxicated and stuff. But that stuff just turns into same sheet different day. Every time I had to deliver to extended stay hotels it was the worst. They usually never tip and it's 95% of the time a weirdo. There was one regular who looked like he never left his room. He would crack the door and tell me to leave the pizza on the ground after signing the receipt. I don't know what the hell he was doing. But eventually we stopped taking his orders because he never tipped.